بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على عبدك ورسولك وأمينك وصفيك وحبيبك وخيرتك من خلقك وصل على أئمة المسلمين وحداة المؤمنين وصل على بقية الله في أرض قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الحميد وقوله الحق أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والنجم إذا هوى ما ضل صاحبكم وما غوى وما ينطق عن الهوى إن هو إلا وحي يوحى علمه شديد القوى ذو مرة فاستوى صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's a great privilege to be here amongst you and to have this honor and privilege of speaking to you about our Holy Prophet. We've just gone through Eid al-Milad al-Nabi and the celebrations, and what I wanted to do was to take you through a perspective or a viewpoint or understanding of the Prophet, but from the teachings of two other faiths. And I'm going to try to do that all in 20 minutes. So I don't know how I'm going to achieve that, but inshallah we'll try. If you look at the Abrahamic traditions, they talk about Hazrat Ibrahim leaving Hazrat Ismail and Hazrat Hajra in Mecca with the idea that a great personality will eventually emerge from that lineage. When Hazrat Musa and Hazrat Isa came, they also talked about this great person that will come, that will complete the mission. When the Holy Prophet actually came, and this always used to bemuse me a little bit, when the Holy Prophet actually came, for 40 years, he lived a very ordinary life. There was no miracles upon his birth. He did not speak to the population like Hazrat Isa. He did not destroy the idols in his youth like Hazrat Ibrahim. He just lived like an ordinary man. He grew up as an orphan. He married, he had children, he lived as a merchant. He was not a statesman, a warrior, or a saint. There was nothing about that time period that we can record and say authentically that he was performing miracles or he was an extraordinary man of any proportion. Now, quite often it's said that, he was preparing the people to trust him, to establish his character. And indeed, his character was very noble. He was known for his honesty. He was known for his integrity. He was known for his generosity, his warmth. He was known as a good human being, but not a great human being. So all these prophets that have come before him have been prophesying, he's going to come, he's going to come. When he comes, he's silent. He just comes and lives amongst the people. Suddenly at the age of 40, in a cave outside Mecca, a dramatic transformation occurs. And from that point on, he starts his mission. Again, no great miracles. He starts his mission by talking to his family and saying, this is the true path. This is the true path. And then he extends it to his friends, and then he extends it to his wider tribe. No great miracles. Footnote here, the Shia audience, a footnote. Yes, there are traditions that we find in our books, and probably if you're writing a book, you'd put it all in the appendix. But we're going by the consensus here that no great miracles happened during that time period. He was going from person to person, from family to family, from gathering to gathering, trying to convince each of them of the truth. In actual fact, when he has to flee for his life from Mecca to Medina, he flees in the middle of the night. There's no dramatic rescue from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's no dramatic miracle to save him. He flees and he hides in a cave, and he's saved by a small little spider. Again, no dramatic miracle. When his rule is established in Medina and the battles begin, and the enemies attack the small community that has established himself in Medina, again, no miracles. The Prophet stood side by side with his companions, encouraging them. In actual fact, in Uhud, when their companions had abandoned him and the handful that stood with him, he simply gave them his sword in Amir al-Mu'mineen. He gives them his sword in Uhud and says, defend me. No miracle again. This great personality who's going to be the savior of mankind, who's going to establish the final religion, nothing, no great miracle associated with him at all. The Punjabi reciter in me is dying at this point, because you can't recite Uhud like this. Uhud is the story and the bravery of Amir al-Mu'mineen. But if you actually look at the battle itself, both Amir al-Mu'mineen and the Holy Prophet were severely injured. They relied on their human power to spread the message of Islam. As I said, there is a whole group of texts, references you can go to which do talk about miracles, but they're not consensual in the sense that all the Muslims agree on them. So I've just parked them to one side. So what made this prophet great? What made him so incredible that today, 1400 years on, his message is as alive and well as it was then? That today, this is the topic of discussion in almost every community, in every gathering. What was it so special about him? I'm looking at the time, so okay. And it was not till I recently looked through some of the works of Hindu writers with regards to the Vedas, and also some Buddhist works, that something became manifest and transparent. And that is, the goal of every religion is salvation. The goal of every religion is salvation. The goal of Islam is to give us salvation in the hereafter, right? You're good in this world, you'll be rewarded in the hereafter. The goal of Hinduism is also salvation. You're good in this world, you won't have a rebirth in the next world, you'll achieve salvation. The Buddhists take this to another level altogether. The Hindus call this moksha. They say the goal of the Atma, the soul, is the salvation. How do you achieve that? You achieve that through a bunch of practices. Now, Hinduism is not a single monolithic religion, a bit like Islam is not a single religion. There are lots of different sects, lots of different viewpoints, especially in Hinduism, which, just to give you some background, is about 3,500 years old. The Vedic records books date back from that, and a lot of these traditions are drawn from these works. So about 3,500 years, so it predates certainly Judaism. Okay, so that's where that sort of a lot of that material comes from, the source of Hinduism. But over time, Hinduism has spread, and there are lots and lots of different branches of that particular faith. But the essential element of all of them is salvation. And what is salvation from their perspective? Salvation is the freeing of and I have to be careful here, freeing of the ruh, or atma as they call it, from this physical world, from the physical body. And this is achieved through what? It's achieved through self-knowledge. Mankind, they argue, is deluded. In this world, he or she becomes attached to this physical body. And then once they go beyond this physical body, they become attached to the mind. And once you go beyond the mind, they become attached to the conscious, and then eventually the subconscious. But a man or a woman are constantly attached to this physical world, to the world of the physical body and the world of the mind. It's freeing oneself from that is moksha, what is liberation. And as I said, there are many paths to that. The ultimate path is the path of realizing or melting of the human, or of our understanding of the self into the Atma, and understanding that there's only one reality, and that reality is God, or Brahman as they call it, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as we would call it in our tradition. That is the goal, the fundamental beliefs of all of the Hindu sort of teachings. And around that, they've got lots and lots of practices. Those of you that are studying the Hawza or have studied in the Hawza, I know many of you struggle with the Usul al-Fiqh and Fiqh. It seems like quite a tedious subject. It goes on and on and on, and one chapter or another chapter. But if you actually look to the Hindu ahkam books, then you'll realize what a fiqh really is. They have a ruling for every part of your life, of your day. Okay, they have burdened their community with all these rules and all these regulations. Whereas the essence of the religion is to free oneself from this physical world. Over time, they have truly bogged the human being down into more and more rules. I mean, there was one thing I was looking at the other day where it discussed which incense, which tree or plant should be used for burning for incense. Rather than say use this one for this purpose, it said use these 5 that you could use, and this is why we don't use them. Right? So rather than establish, hey, use this, it says these 5 could be used, but this is why this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, and this is why we use this one. That level of detail, that level of detail is what exists in this religion. But at the core of that religion is to try to free the human soul from its suffering in this world. And the suffering is caused by attachment to the physical world, both the body, the mind, and the subconscious that exists in us. In that tradition, there is another, in that tradition, you also find Gautam, who eventually became known as Buddha. Buddha was a prince of that time. He lived quite a luxurious life, and then suddenly in his late teens, early 20s, he realized the suffering that was going on around him. He abandoned his post, and he started a long journey of self-discovery. Now, you say, okay, Hinduism and Buddhism are 2 separate religions. Actually, Buddhism stems from Hinduism and derives much of its teachings from those Vedic traditions. So that, I would describe them as being of the Vedic origin in that respect. Buddha's realization after so Buddha went from one school to another school. They say he went to 14 yoga schools, so 14 different sects of Hinduism he went around. He spent time with them, realized I'm not getting the answer that I want. He moved on to the next one and next one. Eventually, for 4 years, he wandered in the wilderness without very much food or water. Okay, without very much food or water, eventually the self-realization or nirvana happened, and Buddha came up with his teachings from there. What were his teachings? His key teachings were that the human being is suffering all of the time. He calls it dukkha, right? We're constantly in suffering. So again, back to the Vedic tradition of there is a problem in this physical world that we live in, physical life and the physical body that we're in. There is suffering there. It's trying to identify what that suffering is and trying to alleviate it. The origin of the suffering he identified as samadhiya, which is attachment. In this world, we become attached to our bodies, to our minds, and to our feelings. Now, a lot of the language that Buddha used is now slowly but surely creeping into our. I mean, I was here some months back, and we were talking about well-being and being present. I think there was a whole day, there was a whole week of discussion. All of those ideas are actually the Buddhist ideas. Buddha was the first one to express these ideas almost 2,500 years ago. Okay, presence of mind, the being present in the moment. These are all his ideas. Okay, so just think about what was going on in that place 3,500 years ago, and Buddha 1,000 years later, 2,500 years ago. So well before the advent of Christianity or Islam, these ideas were being discussed, debated, and being taught in the Indian subcontinent. And what was it? What was the central idea that he was teaching? The essential idea was that we're all suffering, and our suffering is caused by our attachment to both our physical body and identification with our physical body, and also identification with our desires. What are the desires? The fires of greed, hatred, and delusion. Greed, hatred, and delusion. The path that he gave, and he gave practical steps on this path. And again, over time, 2,500-year-old religion, there are many sects, there are many different interpretations within the Buddhist field who do it differently, but the essence of the message, and a bit like the essence of the Hindu message and the essence of the Buddhist message, were exactly the same. It was identifying the attachment with the physical body. Well, we can get over that, we understand that. I have physical desires. When in Ramadan, I get rid of those desires. Okay, but he went one level further. He said, no, there are attachments to our thoughts. So meditation that the Buddhists practice is to detach ourselves from the thoughts. The mind is full of ideas. The mind is full of springs of thoughts that come and pop up all of the time. Recently, as I was trying to sort of look for this in the Islamic sources, you do actually find traditions that discuss this. But we've kind of buried it because we never really understood what was being discussed there. Okay? These ideas certainly exist in the Islamic tradition as well. And then he goes one step, and he says, once you've dealt with the physical body and the desires of the physical body, and you deal with the desires of the mind, or the thought process that happens, and the ideas that keep springing up from there, then you need to deal with the desires of the conscious. Then you need to go to the next level, the subconscious, and there are step-by-step guides as to how to deal with this. Until you overcome this, there will be no salvation. Many years later, we would have the famous tradition amongst us that man arafa nafsa, he who knows his soul. And at the point where Buddha stops. He says, no, you can only know your soul. You cannot know God. And quite often, if you decide to research, there is controversy as to whether he believed in God or not. Actually, he explains his view on that. He says, it's not my job to describe God to you. It's your job to find God. My job is to prepare you for that journey. The only thing that you can, and it's experiential religion in terms of you need to experience the truth yourself. I'm going to give you the tools. Religion is, I'm going to give you the tools so that you can experience it for yourself. I'm not going to give you the answer. And I think that's an incredible foresight and incredible teaching that is probably more relevant today than it was then. But that relevance that you're going to be given the tools to address and to get to the truth. I'm not going to give you the answer. There is one famous story that in one day, one person came and said, does God exist? And he said to him, no, God does not exist. And a few hours later, another person came and he said, does God exist? He said, God does exist. And then at that point, his companion said, does God exist or not? He says, that is for them to find out. I need to encourage them on the journey of self-discovery. Okay, so the Buddhist philosophy and the Buddhist truth was about discovering the suffering that human beings are going through, and realization that the only way to do that is to detach yourself from the human body. I'll take a quick pause there, and inshallah I will complete the khutbah in the second part. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. اللهم صل على محمد Allahumma salli ala Muhammad Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. So, the Hindu goal and the essence of the Hindu teaching is to achieve mokshi and allow the ruh to depart from this physical world and achieve salvation. The goal of the Buddhists is, and they use slightly different language, but nirvana you're very familiar with, is to achieve nirvana, where you realize that the cause of your suffering, you free yourself from the attachments of this world and from the attachments of the intellectual world. What are you left with? You're left with a true understanding of yourself. Man arafa nafsa. Okay, so both religions, 3,500 and 2,500 years old respectively, are trying to achieve and attain the same thing. Now, how's that relevant to our discussion and with regards to our Holy Prophet? Well, I had the privilege of reciting Surah Najm to yourselves at the outset, in which, so some context. This surah, according to the Mufassirs, was the first surah that the Holy Prophet read aloud in Makkah, in the Haram. Okay, so he'd started his mission, person by person, family by family, individual by individual. He was spreading his message. This is the first time he went into, according to Mufassirin, it was the first time he went into the public domain, stood there in the Khana Kaaba, in the Holy Haram, and recited Surah Najm. What is the surah? Let's just quickly go through the translation. When Najm, I swear by the star when it goes down, your companion does not err, nor does he go astray, nor does he speak out of desire. It is naught but revelation that is revealed. The Lord of mighty power has taught him, the Lord of strength, so he attained completion. The Mufassirin, when they discuss this surah, they talk about, this proves the isma of the Holy Prophet. And it does, without doubt. That is one aspect. But this, and especially with the context of these other great religions. Now, Hinduism and Buddhism roughly have 2.5 billion followers around the world today. And I think we're here at an academic institution where a lot of research is being done. I think we, as Muslims, we need to engage with this great religion, and who are only becoming bigger and bigger. At some point, we need to engage with them and address them. The essential teaching, as we've just outlined in the first part of the khutbah, was the salvation of the soul, and they go to quite in an incredible level of detail how that happens. But the essential part of that is a detachment of the ruh from the body, from the desire. And this Surah Najm, if you can imagine, the Holy Prophet has just started his mission. He's got some support and he's got lots of people opposing him. And he comes into the center of worship at that time, which is the Kaaba. And he stands there and he recites this aloud. Now, the Mufassirin say that at that point, all the Muslims fell into sajda. There's a wajib sajda at the end, which Ahem recited. And some of the non-Muslims, the polytheists, when they heard this surah, they also fell into sajda. Okay? What is it that Holy Prophet is declaring in this? He's saying, or what is the Quran declaring on behalf of the Holy Prophet? He's saying, وَمَا يَنْتِقُ عَنِ الْحَوَىٰ, nor does he speak out of desire. There is no desire in this person. إِنَّا هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيُ يُوحَىٰ. It is naught but revelation. When he speaks, it is nothing but revelation. There is no desire in what Muhammad is asking of you. There's nothing of him left. What did Buddha do? He went 14 different schools of teaching, the yogic schools he went through. He spent 4 years wandering to try to achieve this understanding, revelation about himself, or achieve nirvana. The Holy Prophet had achieved, if you compare the two things, Holy Prophet had achieved that. And he stood before the people of Makkah and he was saying, this is not Muhammad coming to speak to you. This is the Rasul. This is a Nabi coming. I am a reflection of the truth. This is not Muhammad. It's strange how Muslims spend all their time on the hair and the look and how the Holy Prophet conducted himself, and less on his character, less on who and the message that he was bringing. So, speaking is how I express my desires. Speaking is how I express my thoughts. Speaking is how I express my what's going on within me. The Quran is declaring right at the outset that the Holy Prophet, when he speaks, he's not speaking from himself. He is speaking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He'd achieved nirvana from a Buddhist perspective. He'd achieved that. And now he was speaking purely from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or as in the Hindu context, he was speaking purely from the Brahmin perspective. There was no Muhammad in that. There was no voice of Muhammad in that. There was no views of Muhammad there. This was purely, this is the truth, I am speaking that to you. Allamahu shadidul qawa. Allamahu shadidul qawa, the Lord of mighty power has taught him. There's a bit of discussion amongst the Mufassirin. Who taught? Was it Jibreel? Or was it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But without doubt, this has to be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Huwa dhu mirratin fastawa, the Lord of strength. So he attained completion. So this is the verses 5 and 6. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, he doesn't speak from himself, he's speaking on my behalf. There is nothing left of Muhammad now. There is nothing left of Muhammad. He's dissolved himself, there is nothing. He is just purely speaking the truth to you. That is why he came and he stood, and regardless of what was happening, he kept on with his missions. And all the great prophets did the same. Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, 950 years of preaching. 950 years of preaching. Each day he would turn up, they would throw rocks at him, they would bury him, Jibreel would come, take him out, and the next day he would be back again. These were incredible human beings, well, superhuman beings. That's what makes them great. That's what makes them great. Not the statesman, not the politician, not the warrior, not the military strategist. The greatness of these human was the humbleness and the submission that they practiced. And Surah Najm, at the outset of the mission, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clearly describing that there is no Muhammad here. This is my message. He has dissolved himself. He has achieved moksha. If I use the language of Hinduism, he has achieved salvation. I believe my time is up, so let me wrap up, and I'll wrap up with a quotation from Bhagavad Gita. I bet you weren't expecting to hear that today, but let's finish with a quotation from that. So what is that work, and why am I quoting it? There's a discussion between Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna is in a battle, he's fighting his cousins. Krishna is representative God. They call him God, but we call him a representative God, whether it's an angel or some other enlightened being. We can debate that on another day. After answering all of his questions, these are the last parts that Krishna says to Arjuna. He says, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage to me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Abandon all religions. La ilaha illallah. It's a message of our Holy Prophet, right? Abandon all religions and just surrender unto me. What is Islam? It's taslim. It's surrendering unto me. And I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Then he continues. This is confidential information. Teach it to only the devotees. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. Who? The one who goes and delivers the message to the people. Delivering a message, I'm standing here with a handful of people. It's not easy, and those of you who've done public speaking know it's not easy. Here, you're standing against the tide. The Holy Prophet was standing against the tide. The whole world was in one way He stood up and said, no, La ilaha illallah. Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, the same. Hazrat Ibrahim, the same. All these great prophets, they were incredible human beings. They put aside their own desires. Said, okay, no, we need to fulfill this mission. We need to deliver this message. And we will deliver this message, regardless of what will come onto us. Inshallah, if I ever get the opportunity, we can look at Karbala from the perspective of the same teachings. Because that, and you can see why the Holy Prophet was so doted so much on Imam Hussein. Because what Imam Hussein did on the day of Ashura was a pure manifestation of the teachings in this work. They said, this is the golden individual, this is the perfect human being that you need to achieve, according to the teachings in the Vedic works, i.e. the Hindu and the Buddhist. This is the perfect human being. Well, Imam Hussein lived that and showed that to the world. Our Holy Prophet lived that and showed that to the whole world, right? I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may He inspire us on this path that the Holy Prophet taught us 1400 years ago. And may He keep us on this true path. I pray to Him, وَاغْفِرْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالْمُؤْمِنَاتِ وَالْمُسْلِمِينَ وَالْمُسْلِمَاتِ الْأَحْيَاءِ مِنْهُمْ وَالْأَمْوَاتِ. Ya Allah, forgive us our transgressions and remove all evil from us. O Allah, cause us to die with the best of your creation. O Allah, unite us all in striving to attain your pleasure. O Allah, cure those that are sick amongst us. O Allah, forgive those that have preceded us. O Allah, alleviate debt and provide sustenance for those in need. O Allah, remove the yoke of oppression and tyranny and ignorance. O Allah, protect the honor of all the believers and non-believers alike around the world. And indeed, we're all in need of protection, believers and non-believers alike. O Allah, keep us firm on your religion and that of your beloved Prophet. Let us practically apply his teachings in our day-to-day life. O Allah, bless your Prophet and his noble family. Aqimus salah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.